All right, welcome to another video from the chart readers. We are going to do the EV sector. Clearly, MULN was the big story of the day. We will get to that actually third on the list, but we'll do what we normally do, right? We'll start with the big boy, which is Tesla, and work our way through the rest. We'll look at the daily and the weekly chart. We have our 5 moving averages, as well as these horizontal support and resistance lines. That's the first half, really a little more than first half, right? And then we'll finish it off with the MACD and RSI. Again, up here is about 80% of the work, down here is like 20%. So look, we're gonna start with Tesla, and just easy to say it, right? The entire week and a half really has been nothing more than trading horizontally on this 218 line, right? There were moments where it looked like it was going to drop. There were some moments where it looked like it was going to go. We're kind of right back at the line, right? In pretty much a week and a half, nothing has happened, right? What does that mean? That means nothing more than uncertainty, right? People don't know if they should put in a lot of money because they think that it's going to fly up, or they don't know if they should just keep their money on the side because they think it's going to fall a lot, right? Just looking at the technicals, huge cluster up here, right? Literally 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up here. We have 5 total, right? So we're hovering under the 8. We're kind of over it now, which is nice, right? But we're pretty much just riding the 8 as well as this line. And then there's just the big cluster up here. A lot is going to need to happen to make this a real safe play. That said, look, if we're actually able to close, okay, give me 1 second. So this closed at 221.72. Okay, nice. We're over that. So we did beat this high, which is great. From here, look, if we can actually get another positive, this is a gap right here. This right here is the next nearest candle, right? So theoretically, this would be a gap fill. We have this line right here. This is one of my horizontals, another line right here, and then ultimately the 50 pretty much right on it, right? This might make a run to the 20. I could see that playing out. Again, we beat this, so not too much is going to stop it really before this comes up. I don't know if we'll break the 20, but hey, this isn't a bad play right here. This looks like a little more than 10%, right? About 20 bucks to be made per share. So I would watch this to see if there's like a good swing there. Again, weekly is not looking great, right? I get that this is trying to curve up, kind of trying again, red over green, and so far under the 8, right? If the weekly is not good, that means we're going to have a bunch of bad days, right? So, or at least worse days adding up total, right? So just, you want your weekly to be strong like this so that you can ride a whole mess of good days versus bad like this, and then just kind of watch the tail of it happen in a bunch of days, right? So really nothing great long term, maybe a good 10% swing in play. RSI is kind of there, but again, nothing spectacular long term just yet. And look, overall, NASDAQ has just been crazy. It doesn't know if it wants to go up or down. All right, Ford, look at this little guy. So, I don't want to say little guy. Ford's a pretty big player, just kind of newer in the EV. This one's actually been a lot longer, right? Almost a 3-week window, right? Literally just going up and down on this 12-13 line, right? We could almost basically say we're also going up and down on the 8. So I would actually say the 8 a little more than my line. I don't want to take too much credit, but hey, we are sitting on actually a penny over. We're sitting over our resistance, right? There is a pretty good gap to fill. This is going to stop it a little bit. What number is this? 1250. Let me just round down a little bit, but this might make a run to 1250. If it breaks 1250, kind of the same thing we saw with Tesla. We might make a run to the 100. We might make a run to the 50. Really, this is the next green candle stop after 1250, right? So Ford could be an interesting play too. Again, a lot of it is really going to be on what the NASDAQ looks like. This actually has a better MACD and RSI than Tesla, so some bullishness to be said for sure. Actually, 3 days over the 8, 2 days over the 20, not too bad actually. If this opens up positive, I could see it running to 1250, breaking 1250, and maybe hitting the 100 up there, right? So definitely worth a look in the morning. Again, Not a good weekly. However, it looks like we've made a good technical bounce, right? We came all the way to the 200. It's actually been a bounce point once before. That was a really strong bounce point, right? So maybe it does it again. I don't know if it'll take us all the way up to the 50, but hey, I could see us taking it up, maybe in this range, which roughly added up to this range right here, right? So again, I think that kind of goes with the potential swing up to, what was this 100 one more time, just so we see it, 1337. Let's say 1340. So not a bad play at all, actually. And it looks a little better than Tesla. MULN. All right, let's see what this looks like. Oh, man, monster chart today. Okay, look. I've said it a few times, right? And I'm glad, look at how the day played out along the moving averages as well as my lines, right? So a couple things. Number one, I sincerely have said this is not a stock to buy for a long time, right? If you were able to make some money on this, that's good. I'll say, though, there was really no reason for you to buy any of it. What this really did was kind of catch some people up on what was really oversold, right? That said, look, once it broke the 8, you might have been able, let me just kind of go into the hourly real quick. So let's just see how this day played out. So it all really happened in the second hour, and then a real nice continuation going all the way to the 200 and then dropping, right? And look, once it broke this 3 cluster right here, it just made a nice move 1 and 1 before coming. So same rules we do on our swing view, same would apply intraday, right? Here's what matters tomorrow, and you should already, I ruined the answer, but what matters to me the most is tomorrow, okay? We need follow through. Number one, this needs to stay above the 20, okay? So this better not go lower than 31 cents. Again, make sure you can see all 4 decimals when you're moving your money. Again, I don't move my money on this. I just use this for my technical stack, actually. But this needs to stay above the 20 tomorrow. From there, this better stay over the 8 tomorrow, okay? Ideally, we actually open positive and make another attempt at these lines right here, right? Look, you can see it. It pretty much stopped here, made a run at this and this line as well during the day, right? So all 3 of these were pretty good because it actually pretty much stopped the run. Look, the next real support, if it could break this 40, is up here. Again, it's another gap fill, right? This, when we say gap fill, that means a bunch of red in a row and then green here and green here, right? So generally, it's the green guys that stop it. You can see that's actually like where my lines are drawn, right? From there, if you've got just a ladder of red, someone felt a lot of pain on this gap down. We try to make money when we fill those gaps. Again, look, someone just lost so much money from here all the way here. One pretty big gap fill, literally in one day, made up for the whole thing. I'm not here looking for these gap fills. Believe me, you can set alerts, right? If you know my videos well, hey, set an alert for anything that's over the 8, right? That's a good way to play. This is not financial advice. But what I want to buy is the opposite of this, right? I want the 8 to start moving up. I want the 8 to start breaking some lines, and then I want to get in on some safe gaps, okay? Like, let's zoom out a little bit. It's right now, we've also not gotten over the 20 in a long time, right? There was an attempt here, we failed. There was an attempt here, we failed. There was an attempt here, we failed. There's an attempt here. Maybe these look a lot stronger, I will say that, but even look right here, they were pretty strong. We're actually pretty much on the line of it where it used to be the last time, right? And that still wasn't enough. Hey, the red's a little bit lower. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. But again, don't let this 50, this is a monster day. I hope you made money. I do. I'm telling you, you make more money on the continuation than you do buying the pop, buying the pop, buying the pop, and then watching it drop. You know what I mean? So believe me, I'm happy for the people that made it. My trading style isn't waiting for this 50 burger to make up for all these days of losses, right? That's not a winning strategy. Buying on the way up is much better, trust me. That said, make sure you look at MULN tomorrow. If this opens literally at 35 cents, there's almost no reason it wouldn't run to 50. That's another monster day, right? It could happen. Again, I like how these look right here. That said, it could very easily drop under the 8, taking it down to 25 cents, right? So just your risk factor is a lot of what you want to do with this. And I'll tell you, you probably should have your finger on the mouse. I wouldn't make a new buy overnight. I would wake up at 6:30 a.m. my time, 9:30 if you are on the East Coast or anything in between, right? And see what the market does, because we saw it with the weed stocks, right? Whole mess of them made big moves and they dropped. And honestly, I think this news was pretty similar to one of these other pops. There was an acquisition thing, right? Again, is the acquisition going to make them more money? Is it going to make them more cars? Is it going to make their battery better? I'll be honest, I don't know. And it almost doesn't matter until it happens, right? So keep that in mind as well. How long is this pop going to last? But again, one more monster run to 50 that's a beautiful chunk, right? It's not quite another 50 burger, but it's definitely a good lunch tomorrow if it's there. So do not take your eyes off MULN, but one more time, don't get greedy, right? Look at the weekly. We're still trading well under the 8. That's nice. That's a real nice peak. Don't get me wrong, but hey, we've had these peaks up here while we were still riding the 8 and going down pretty hard, right? So don't get fooled, right? That's what technical analysis is here for. Set a plan, set expectations, and remember one more time, we haven't got over the 20 definitively since here. I'll basically call it here. This was probably the last good run. June. All right, we're in the middle of October, so the 20 is no joke. If it breaks it, it'll good run. If it doesn't break it, it's because of the 20, and it shouldn't be a surprise. So right now it looks positive. I'm saying it again. It looks like it could go up, but don't assume, okay? I spent a lot of time on this one, but again, this one really was the highlight of the day for sure. I hope you made money. I hope you bank some money, and I hope you don't get greedy. That's the last thing I'll say. LIDR, not too much I need to say, and I'm going to go a little quick just since I spent more time, but look, all we're doing is trading under the 8. Eventually, this will be a real good gap fill. For sure it will, right? You know, this might be a stop. This might be a stop. This is the first real stop, right? Like that's a bigger candle. But these little blimps, it's almost equivalent to just a bunch of reds in a row. And one day we'll gap fill this. You know, just you don't want to buy guessing when the gap fill is going to come. Trust me, you'll lose too much money doing that. Again, just zooming out so you see this is at all-time lows. Excuse me. I say it all the time. Look, your money is hard-earned money, okay? Don't put it in all-time lows praying for a pop or meme power or whatever we want to call it. So, EVGO. Oops, I don't think... Did I click the right one? Just let me be safe. EVGO. Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. EVGO. Okay, check it out. Another week and a half of just really staying on one of my lines. This definitely isn't the 8, right? So the 8 still really a challenge. We are we on it, under it? Where is it? So the 8 is at 36. We close at 36. We're technically, we're on it, right? We're not under it. We're not over it. And I don't have 4 decimal points here, so I can't get to the exact, but not quite enough of confirmation. Again, it's a risky play. Definitely has a little peak, but it's had some peaks before. Maybe there'll be a little pop to the 20, but just be careful here. Nothing looks good short term on EVGO. I know a lot of people like this stock long term, and I'm not here to hate long term. I'm just literally talking about between now and the next video next week, right? So don't think I'm trying to bash this stock. PSNY, Polestar, another one. Look, meme power. I know people want this thing to save. This is just an amazing gap fill that one day, at least to here, would get, right? We're down here, and you can almost make an argument. It's these all kind of look the same, right? MULN had a good news pop, but the fact that they all look bad kind of makes me think MULN's isn't going to hold, or just literally all of these are so bad that everyone's going to focus on MULN, and MULN maybe will get a good push, right? So that's why there's just a couple ways of playing MULN, and I know I'm still talking about that stock, but it really was the hot one. Again, Polestar, all-time lows. Your money is hard earned. I don't know how you earn it. I don't care, but don't just throw it away hoping that, you know, unless you're a long-term person, right? Again, I'm not here talking about long-term. One day, one of these, I don't know how many are there, but they might be a top 50 company, right? They might be a top 30 company. The world is eventually going to change to a lot of this EV stuff. Just know fossil fuel is still there, right? And all that sort of noise. Again, VLDR, you can just see what the 20 is doing. A huge, huge wall. Big rejection the last 2 days. Pretty much just trading with the 8. And obviously, we're not at all-time lows. It's been this low before. But again, VLDR, once I go into the weekly, yeah, it's definitely sitting in that realm, right? So, and really not too much support to be drawn from the weekly, which is not good either. So, going a little quicker on these ones, but really you should see that there's not too much to say. Solo, all right, Solo again has been doing this, you know, up and down movement on my line right here around 110. It's been about a week and a half. We are over the 8, which is cool. I'll say that. But again, you know, do you want to make the play to see if it does this? Maybe. I can see this kind of trying to curl up. I can kind of see this, obviously green over red. So there might be a play here, and a pretty decent gap fill actually. So maybe if this can get over whatever the close of yesterday was, I could see it making a nice move. But again, just I imagine the weekly is not going to look great, and it doesn't, right? So anything that you make, just be real careful, bank it when it's there, because again, it's just such choppy waters, right? Charge point, again, the last on the list, but a lot of people really like this, and this is one that I'm starting to like the technicals. Again, we have a pretty tight cluster, starting to lose it and drop down, right? That's why I always say whenever you have a cluster, you tend to get this like horizontal trade before it either breaks down or up, and it does look like this one's down, and really the green is kind of just starting to go down, it almost seems like. So be careful on charge point. Again, I know a lot of people like this fundamentally. I can easily see this coming down to 10. You know, there's only a couple lines left to save it, so be careful with charge point. Again, long term, there's a lot of things to like about this. Just short term, unless the NASDAQ does something big, MULN really is the only one to look at. Tesla and Ford, maybe. There was probably another one or two like 10% bounces, but overall, be careful in this sector. Trade safely, and man, I can't say it enough. I hope you're learning. Have a great one.